Okay, today we are comparing three outdoor folding saws. The Corona Razor Tooth 10-inch, the Silky Ultra-Accel, and the Silky Gomboy 240mm. We're doing this video backwards today. Normally, we start out the table inside, talk about the specifications and details, and offer you some of my opinion on what these devices are good for before we do a cut demonstration and give you an idea of the performance and what these devices may or may not be actually capable of. Today we're starting out with the cut demonstration, and it's largely due to the fact that I have some pretty strong opinions about these particular devices, and they aren't really based on strictly their performance. So let's get the performance part out of the way first, and then we'll go in, talk about the specifications and details, and then I will tell you what I think about these, and that'll be about that. We'll try to keep this relatively short today, if that's possible. This is a 5.5-inch piece of juniper. Challenging material, still got the bark on it, has a bunch of knots in it. This is mostly cured. It's been dead for a year, tipped over on its root ball. This was uprooted by a bulldozer. So it's not completely dried out, but yeah, it's pretty well cured, very hard stuff. Very challenging material. Let's start out with the Corona Razor Tooth 10-inch. Take a slice off of this piece of wood with it. Okay, that took a pretty nice cut. Nothing to complain about as far as it makes a nice smooth cut. Performed very well. I was kind of counting those strokes in my head. I think I came out around 42. I hope you folks were counting at home rather than relying on my count. Okay, the next saw up is the Silky Gomboy 240mm large tooth. I lost track. Maybe I'll try to count those and annotate. Okay, the next saw up is the Silky Ultra-Accel 240mm. Oh, curved blade, I should say. I think it's about the same between really all of them. I didn't count any of those strokes, but this, just to let you know, this piece of wood is probably a little over 6 inches now. It rapidly gets, just a hair under 6 inches. It's more than 5 3/4, but just under 6. So yeah, that's the maximum amount that the Corona razor tooth says it's designed for. So we'll stop there. Let's go ahead and go into the shop, and or I mean into the other part of the building, and set up on the review table, and we'll talk about these saws. Okay, here we go. Okay, as mentioned, today we are comparing the Silky Gomboy 240mm large tooth version to the Corona razor tooth 10-inch folding saw, to the Silky Ultra-Accel. There you have it. Okay, let's jump right into the specifications and details, and then I'm going to give you some rather strong opinion. Yeah, that's just what we're going to do. That's why we're doing this video backwards. My opinion doesn't have a lot to do with the actual performance of these devices, but I do have some strong opinions about a couple of these. So let's get right into the specifications and details, and then we'll get to that. The Silky Gomboy, this one is the lightest saw on the table at 9 1/2 ounces. It has 52.5 teeth on a 9 1/2 inch blade. This is a 5.5 points per inch tooth configuration. And the teeth are 3D cut, shaped back toward the user. It is a pull cut saw, as are all 3 of the saws on the table today. Let's see if we can get you a good look at these teeth. Hopefully we got a good focus there. The handle material is stainless steel covered in a gum rubber. Nice thick gum rubber, so it reduces vibration. It's easy to hang on to. It's nice tacky kind of, it's not going to pull out of your hand, provides a good grip sort of stuff. There you go. And let's see, excuse me, sorry, 5.5 points per inch. The teeth are about 1/4 inch deep. The handle that I was just talking about is about 3/4 inch thick at its thickest point. Its thickest point here is here by the lanyard hole. All folded up. This is 10 1/2 inches long. Unfolded, it is 19 1/2 inches long. All opened up, ready to go. Has a 2-position lock. Blade goes into 2 positions. Some people say that that's for cutting down by the ground so you don't scrape your knuckles on the ground. That is not true. This is for overhead cutting and cutting at funny angles, according to Silky. So that's just how it is. I do not cut things on the ground with my Silky saws. I will use a fulcrum and lever if they are too big to get up off the ground, because I do not saw dirt with expensive saws. Anyway. Okay, let's talk about this blade just a little bit more. The widest point of this blade is about 1.5 inches. There's about 1.5 inches wide of blade back here by the pivot. At the tip, where this last couple of teeth are, this narrows down to 3/4 inch. The teeth are 1.4 millimeters wide, and the spine of the blade is 1.3 millimeters wide. So this is a 3-way taper cut ground blade. It is ground thinner at the spine than it is at the teeth. It's ground thinner at the tip than it is at the butt, and it's cut into, it's wider at the butt than it is at the tip. The teeth are 3D cut. They're impulse hardened with electricity, and this is made, the blade material is SK4, and it's actually an SK4M. We'll get into that a little bit later. The locking mechanism, all three of these share the same type of locking mechanism. It's a kind of like a teeter-totter here, spring-loaded on one side. There's a stainless steel pin in this one that drops into these notches on the blade for the two-position lock. And this has got a pretty substantial, about 4 millimeter long and 1.5 millimeter, 2 millimeter wide locking bar. I've showed that in some other videos. It has a great big hardened steel, nice big pivot screw. It's kind of like a Chicago screw. You can open this up with a coin or a flathead screwdriver. What else to say about this one? Very good attention to detail. This was my personal, I carried a saw identical to this for about 3 years. I chose to carry this one in my day pack for a very, very long time. Served me very well. I'm very fond of this saw. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the Corona Razor Tooth 10-inch. Let's see. It's got a 10-inch blade, just like its name indicates. If you were to lay this on a ruler, it looks like there's teeth on 9 and 9/10 of an inch that's how many teeth there are, because of the safety tip takes up some space and because the butt takes up a little bit of space in that 10 inches. But this curve provides you because of its shape, you've got a full 10 inches of cutting surface here. If you laid a string in here, if you lay this down, lay a string in here, and then pull the string out and measure the string, it's slightly over 10 inches of actual cutting surface. There are 60½ teeth on this blade for, it's a 6 points per inch. And I've talked about this with the Silky saws, the safety tip being sharpened toward the user, that makes your half a tooth. So you have 60½ teeth. Let's get you a good look at these as well while we're here. This blade, I hope I can get some good focus here. These teeth are also about 1/4 inch deep like the others. They are 3D cut, shaped back toward the user. This is a pull stroke saw. Okay, I hope that was a pretty good look at that. Let's get their logo on here, make them happy, I guess. Okay, this blade is made out of an SK5. It's actually an SK5M, and we will get to that here in a little bit. What else to say about this one? Okay, 60½ inches, 10-inch blade, 6 points per inch. The teeth are about 1/4 inch deep. The handle, thickest point is not too far from this lanyard hole. It is about 9/10 of an inch thick. The widest point when this saw is all folded up, and by width I mean the back of the spine to the highest point on the handle. It's 2 3/4 inches wide. The folded length is about 1 foot. It's just a hair under 12 inches long in this configuration. All opened up, it is 21 inches long. That's a pretty big tool. The blade width, I was talking about this with the Silky. The widest point back here toward, as close to the pivot as we can get. The widest point is 1 1/2 inches, and then that narrows to 3/4 inch here at these last couple of teeth at the tip before it rounds completely off. So 3/4 inch of blade here, 1.5 inches of blade here. Yeah, okay, the thickness of this material is 1.44 millimeters. I don't know if I mentioned that about the Gomboy when I was talking about it being taper ground in more than one direction. This is 1.4 millimeters at the teeth, 1.3 millimeters at the spine. In the case of the Corona, this is not taper ground in every direction. It is taper ground in 2 directions instead of 3. The teeth are 1.44 millimeters wide, and so is the spine. all the way down here pretty much. It narrows to where it really bends off here, where it's, you know, where they cut this out of the metal here. It narrows down to about 1.38, 1.39, and back here by as close to the pivot as we can get, right off the grind, it is 1.44 millimeters. Yeah, so it's narrower at the tip than back here by the pivot, but it is the same thickness at the teeth as it is at the spine, all the way down the blade. Also mentionable, I said this is an SK5M. Corona relies on some pretty thick chrome to protect this blade. We are going to get into why I'm telling you about this, what kind of steel these are here in just a short while. Let's move on to the specifications and details of the Silky Ultra-Accel. Wait a minute. Let's talk about the handle material and the lock. Before I get too far, this handle material is some sort of an injection molded plastic, and there is a rubberized kind of a sheet plastic put over it where these black spots are. It's silicone kind of infused sort of plastic sheet that's glued in here. It's pretty thin. It doesn't provide a whole lot for vibration protection, but it does provide a lot better grip than this slick plastic. So it is there for a reason. It's okay. This is all plastic all the way up to this point. There are a couple of stainless steel liners where the hinge is and the pivot is for this blade and where the locking mechanism is. We cannot look into this one well enough with my camera to see the size of the lock nor the depth of the notches in the blade. That's a little unfortunate. I probably should have brought another one of these and taken it apart to show you, but it is kind of a hassle. You got to pull this pivot out, and then you got to knock this pin out, and then you got to slide the whole, you know, and it isn't very much, but right there, those are the liners that keep this blade assembly together. And but anyway, the notches are relatively shallow, but the lock bar is relatively broad. I'm going to say it's maybe 3.5 to maybe even 3.75 millimeter round pin. It's substantial. The lock bar is substantial. This appears to be a plastic actual rocker, and it's pretty hard plastic. Yeah, I think that's about it. Handle material, lock material, pivot material. This seems to be a hardened bolt. Seems to be a hardened steel bolt. It's maybe about a number 10. Yeah, very reasonable kind of, you know, that's pretty reasonable amount of pivot for this device. Okay, now let's move on to the Silky Ultra-Accel. This is a pretty interesting. Yeah, this is one of the best Silky tools. This is very well made. Let's just take it in order like we did. The Silky Ultra-Accel is the heaviest saw you see here, and I may not have mentioned that. This is 9 3/4 of an ounce. The Corona is. This, I did mention that. This is 9.5 ounces. This is 10.5 ounces. It has 57.5 teeth. Get you a good look at these teeth. These are also about 1/4 of an inch deep. Really having trouble focusing on this one. It's partly due to my lighting. There we go. That looks pretty good. Give you a good look at this device. Just not focusing very well on that paint. Sorry. There, that's pretty good. See if we can focus on their logo too, make them happy, but it's kind of laser etched in. It's a lot hard. It isn't black, nice, bold type. Yeah, I don't think I can quite get it. But in any case, I hope that was a pretty good look at this device. Let's move on. 57.5 teeth on 9.5 inches of blade. There is, you know, if you lay this on a ruler, it looks like about 9 inches of cutting surface or so. You lay a string in here from this back tooth up to the front, and it really is pretty close to 9.5 inches of cutting surface due to the shape of this blade. The curve adds distance. It's not a straight line from here to here. There's a curve, so you got more distance to travel, just like the Corona. And these are the blade shapes are quite similar between the Corona and the Silky Ultra XL. Teeth are about 1/4 inch deep. The thickest point is basically the entirety of this gum rubber handle. It's about 1 inch thick, just maybe a slight little hair under 1 inch thick along that whole handle. That's nice palm filling, kind of inch thick. The widest point when it's folded up it's about 3 inches wide, and that appears to be, you know, here at the rocker bar up to the back of the spine. It's about 3 inches. The folded length is 11.5 inches long, and the open length is 20.75 inches long. Okay, the blade. Let's cover this since we did with the other ones. There is 1.75 inches of blade back here when we get close to the pivot. This distance is 1.75 inches. The tip is 1 inch, a full inch. So it's a wider blade than either of those two. There's more blade material. This is also tapered round, 1.4 millimeter at the teeth, 1.3 millimeter at the spine. So it tapers this way, it tapers this way, and it actually is slightly thinner at the tip than it is at the butt, so it tapers that way too. It tapers in all three directions. 3D cut pull stroke saw. Okay, handle material, lock material, that sort of thing. Let's go over the lock first. We can actually see how big this pivot pin or this locking pin is right there. It looks to be about 4.5, maybe 7.5 millimeter. Pretty big pin in the rocker itself. The spring's pretty stiff. I like that. Has a 2-position lock. There are the notches. You can see that. This saw is a little bit different than other Silky saws. None of them lock closed. There is no, except for the Katana Boy, none of the folding Silky saws lock closed, but this one has a detent. And let's see if you can see that right here. This detent, that lock bar drops into when this is closed. So even though it doesn't have a notch to lock into that requires you to activate the lock, it detents. I don't know how well I can demonstrate this. See, there's a detent and keeps it from opening up. I hope that that's a pretty good demonstration because it's really quite difficult to explain. So anyway, 2-position lock, big, thick stainless steel lock bar. Rocker bar is stainless steel. The handle material, this is aluminum. I'm very surprised by this. It feels like steel. It's 4 millimeters thick. It doesn't flex at all. There is nothing you could do to this to bend this. It's I thought at first it was probably cast because of how thick it is, but I got to looking at it and I don't think it is. I think that they're doing this just like they do their stainless steel. They're heating this up, they're stamping it, and then they fold it over. I'm very surprised by, you know, that's a very expensive process with aluminum. It's not as expensive as if you'd have milled it all out, but that is a very expensive process, and yeah, it's very surprising. So I didn't, you know, even though I've read that this is an aluminum handle, when I first got this in hand, I didn't actually believe it was aluminum until I tried to stick a magnet to it and it wouldn't stick. I was like, no, that's got to be steel. That's got to be how thick that is, and the shape of it, and it's stamped. It isn't, you know, it isn't cast. Yeah, I'm very impressed. So let's move right on into, you know, opinion, because I can't stay out of it at this point. I can't stay out of my opinion. These two are very well-made tools. That's not. This is, I cannot, will not, shall not recommend this saw. In a previous video, I said you'd probably never see it from me again. I've been sitting on this video for a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe. I really have hemmed and hawed about even showing you this piece of junk again. A lot of people like it. A lot of people sing its praises. This is not a well-made tool. Out in the shop, I told you that my opinion had nothing to do with the performance. Has nothing to do with the blade, in fact. That's the truth here. I love these Corona blades, and bear with me just a second. Sorry about that. You know, I didn't think about this until just now that I had one of these laying around. This is another Corona blade for another device that I have. I keep a couple of these in stock because it's a very important tool to me, and that is a very well-made tool. I've got an 18-foot extension pole that's got a pruner on one side and a 13-inch razor tooth blade on the other. Wonderful, well-built, very nice, useful tool. This is not. This plastic injection molded handle, it's not very sturdy, it's not very good, it's not very well made. This tiny little set of liners to mount the blade in here, subpar at best, and I'm being generous calling that subpar. This injection molded plastic is brittle when it's cold outside. I broke one of these at 18 below by dropping it off my tailgate of my pickup. My tailgate is maybe waist high, a little bit lower. Wasn't even 3 feet off the ground. It did land on concrete. It was 18 below. It destroyed this plastic. This is not a very well built tool. It has a great high performance, very strong blade. This is not a well-built tool. There's a reason this thing sells for $17 or $18, and that's because it's not even worth that. That's just the truth. I cannot, will not, shall not recommend this saw to anybody, even people who live in warm weather. Now I got to quantify this. If you're pruning a few branches off an apple tree in your yard a couple of times a year, if you've got 8 or 10 cherry trees maybe even, or a couple other fruit trees, and maybe a couple of bushes that need some occasional pruning, yeah, this saw is for you. No need to spend a whole bunch of money on a expensive tool. For outdoor people who co-opt devices that are meant for other things, you know, if you're a canoeist, a backpacker, a hiker, a mountain biker, you know, winter or summertime camper, a backcountry person, somebody who's out on their four-wheeler or in their 4x4, hoping to have an emergency saw, a get you some firewood saw. No, do not think this is gonna be a reliable tool for that. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's what I have to say about that. Use it for the purpose they sell it for in Lowe's. Yeah, nipping it, you know, homeowner, got a few trees, need a little work here and there. Yeah, you betcha. Wonderful tool for that. co-opting it into the purposes of most of my audience, and the biggest reasons that this saw gets so many YouTube videos. No, don't take this on a 90-mile across the forest. You know, it might be cold weather and rain. I might need firewood. Don't throw this in your toolbox of your 4x4. Oh man, I need to move this log out of my way, or I got to turn around. I got to clear a trail for my mountain bike. I'm on a canoe trip. No, this is not a good tool. This is not a well-made tool. The likelihood I think this has of failing you in a circumstance where you really needed it and just couldn't hop in the car and drive back down to Lowe's and get another one, no, this is junk. For our purposes, for the purpose it's actually sold for, yeah, it's wonderful, beautiful tool. For our purposes, for co-opting it into being outdoorsmen kind of folks, no. Okay, that's my strong opinion there. Now let's talk about this one a little bit. I once did a video on the Silky Ultra-Accel and compared it to the Gomboy 210. What I discovered with that was that the Ultra-Accel was kind of a budget, little bit less tool. It didn't have all the features. The attention to detail wasn't all there. It was still nice, but it was a little less tool than the Gomboy line. The Ultra-Accel, exactly the opposite. Has all of the attention to detail. You get a little more tool. You get a little more tool with this than you do with the same size Gomboy. You know, a really sturdy handle, interesting design that I'm going to talk a little more about. Bigger, better lock, curved blade, which, you know, affords you some mechanical advantage, and we're not going to get too deep into that. The curved blade versus a straight blade. Thicker blade, more metal in the blade, more metal in the lock, expensive manufacturing process. I think there's even, you know, because the gom rubber's thicker and it covers the same amount of distance but more width, there's more gom rubber on this. There's more of everything on this. They cut no corners. Has all the nifty little features like this little thing to grab your blade and get a nice purchase on it to open it out of the, you know, it has all of it. It has everything the Gomboy does and even a little more. The curved blade is more efficient. It's a faster saw. Same material, same blade material, same blade thickness, a lot of the same design work in these. This is a 6.3 points per inch. This one's 5.5, so this one's got slightly more aggressive teeth. But this one's got the curve that makes it a slightly more aggressive saw. They're equal to, I think this one even performs a little better. Yeah, the Ultra-Accel, you actually get a little more tool for your money. Okay, the Gomboy, you know, I carried one of these for like 3 years. This was my day bag saw for like 3 years. I carried a saw just like this. I have cut a lot of things with it. This held up very well for me. I love this saw. As far as recommendations, well, now we got to talk about price. Amazon lately, these are going $30-35 bucks. Amazon lately, I think I paid $45 for this saw. At Lowe's, you know, 17-18 bucks. There you have it. I mean, that's what makes you buy this saw, is it's $17 or $18 and you can get it locally. This saw, you know, you got to order this online and, you know, or get it straight from Japan, or, you know, there are very few places where you can actually get one of these in the United States anyway. a couple of outdoors outfits. I see Cabela's has some Gomboys now. I see that Sportsman Warehouse carries a 210. I mean, they're coming into the local market, but they're not readily available yet. Okay, let's move on to the last two things. First, let's do some debunking. Debunking, this is SK4M. This is SK5M. You know what the difference is? A very few tiny little molecules of carbon. Otherwise, the SK5M has slightly, and I mean slightly, less carbon. Otherwise, these are chemically identical steels. The very few molecules, fewer carbon in the SK5M makes it a little slightly less reactive to certain chemicals and to oxidization. These blades are chromed anyway, so, you know, they have identical tensile strength, they have identical load-bearing strength, they temper at the exact same temperature, and they come out to the exact same hardness after temper. SK4M and SK5M, it's a few little molecules of carbon. They have all the same impurities. There's sulfur, there's copper. This is an impure steel. Both of them are. They have all the same impurities, but they're identical other than a few molecules of carbon. So, you know, those people who say, oh, SK5 is way better. No, it's not. It's nearly identical. SK5 might take, you know, if you left these out in the dirt somewhere through rain and snow and sleet and hail and years of laying out in the dirt, the SK4 might rot away, you know, indiscernibly faster. You know, I mean, you're not going to live that long to see it rot completely away. Your grandkids aren't, your great-grandkids aren't. You know, by the time it's completely rusted away and there's still, you know, a little minuscule speck of steel left of this one, yeah, that's a couple hundred years from now anyhow, so I don't know what to tell you. These are stainless steels too, by the way. Let's debunk that one right now too. We talk about SK4 and SK5 as being high carbon steels. You know, no, these are stainless steels. You know, look it up. Go find the data sheets. They're I always get this word wrong, but it's like Martin-centric stainless. I probably got that word wrong. I apologize, but these are actually stainless steels. So there you have it. Okay, I was going to end on, look at the design features between these two saws. I'm going to get up here in the frame. So I'm going to tell you something here. Either Corona said, hey, let's make a cheap knockoff of the Ultra XL, or Silky said, Corona, that thing's a piece of junk. Let's show you how to make a real tool. Thumb ramp, built into that nice gum rubber, nice and soft, vibration absorbing. Pistol grip, built into that gum rubber. Beautiful lanyard, and you can attach this on all kinds of things on the outside of your pack. There's a lot of ways to mount this to things or hang it off your belt, or put a nice lanyard through it to keep it on your wrist when you're climbing, etc. And then looking at this one, you know, pistol grip, thumb ramp, curved blade. Yeah, I'm telling you, either somebody at Silky said, hey, Corona, let's show you how to make a real tool, or Corona said, hey, let's do a cheap knockoff of, you know, I mean, it's obvious. These are, someone is borrowing heavily from someone else's design features here. But this saw is a very well-built tool. Very well-built tool. Worth every penny kind of well-built tool. This saw has a wonderful blade and otherwise is really quite disappointing. Don't like it. Hate this handle. Okay, you know what? That's it. This has become a longer video than I hoped it would, but that's what I've got to say about all of this. You folks deserve to know these things before you spend your hard-earned money. Will not, cannot, shall not recommend this to outdoor kind of people. Use it for what they sell it for, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. People ask me what's the best folding saw, pack saw, etc. You know, that's really hard to quantify because, you know, without knowing what kind of material people need to cut, how big a material people need to cut. But as far as mid-sized folding saws, what's the best? Best, right there. Silky Ultra-Accel, best. Carried this forever. You know, straight blade means that fewer teeth are in contact with the wood than a curved blade when you start your cut. You know, it's this also provides you mechanical advantage, but more aggressive teeth. These are very similar cutters. More blade material, stainless steel, super strong aluminum. I should do a video just comparing these sometime. I love this saw because I've got many hundreds of hours of dirt time with a saw like this with me. This is relatively new to me, just a few weeks ago. I got 2 of these and the other one has made about 150 cuts already. I have no complaints. Wonderful, wonderful device. Best if you're looking for a saw about like this. Ounce heavier than that one, but you've got, you know, even better built tool. All right, I think that's it. I really thank you for taking all this time to listen to me for a while. I hope the information I've provided proves useful to you. Other than that, I guess I've run out of things to say. I'm sorry this got to be as long as most of my videos get to be. I ramble on a little bit too much, but again, I thank you very much, and I hope the rest of your day goes really, really well.